God bless America. Hello, everybody. I am the Talk Radio Protege. This is the Protege program. Happy Friday, everyone. We're about to make it to another holiday weekend, and I will be away from my day job for a couple of days. But never fear, there will be videos going up on Monday and Tuesday. One of them I've already got scheduled to go up. The other one I will be recording shortly. But nevertheless, thank you for joining me. If you don't want to miss Monday and Friday's videos, Monday and Tuesday's videos, make sure you subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. These will be important. I'll tell you what they are at the end of this video. Now, I'm feeling pretty good about myself for thinking up this thumbnail after reading the New York Times piece. Let me show you what they wrote. They said, "This is the year the news accelerated to Trump speed." And that, of course, reminded me of the Spaceballs scene where we have to skip light speed and go straight to ludicrous speed. And that's kind of the gist of this column, that the news cycle is just too fast. There's not enough time to talk about all the bad things that Trump is doing and all the damaging things that he's done. There's not enough time to impugn his character enough and to write about all of the terribleness that is President Donald Trump. At least that's the gist that I got from reading this column. So I just wanted to point a couple of things out and make a couple of comments here. It's going to be a short video, as I say. First of all, we have this doofy, LOL so random millennial humor. And I don't know how old this Matt Flegenheimer is, or what job he's worked in before he worked for the New York Times, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So anyway, we had this silly, goofy Disney Channel humor in the first little bit of the article, so we're just going to skip that. That's stupid. And then here we go. 1 year out, this may be Mr. Trump's greatest trick. His tornado of news making his scrambled Americans' grasp of time and memory, producing a sort of sensory overload that can make even seismic events of his creation or otherwise disappear from the collective consciousness and public view. It's almost as if the news cycle is so fast that we don't have time to care and be upset about all of the awfulness that Trump is doing. You know, it's kind of like the way that the news cycle was for the past 10 years in the Republicans' point of view, where the news cycle was so fast that we didn't have enough time to talk about all of the things that Obama was doing. But nobody was saying that the Trump was at Obama speed. What did I just say? I got to talking too fast. My mouth got ahead of my brain. Nobody was saying that the news was at Obama speed. I hope that's what I actually said the first time, or maybe I don't. Either way, I'm going to look silly, but whatever. But Matt seems to be unfamiliar with the fact that the news cycle has always been fast. There's new things happen every day. Even on the slower news cycles, like the past couple of weeks have been, something new is happening every day. The media has not failed to cover the Trumps, even in this time of holiday cheer and vacationing. They've been... I've seen headlines at the Drudge Report where they've been attacking Trump's diet, or how Ivanka dresses, or how Melania decorated the White House. I even saw that there was a headline of a piece critical of Ivanka taking her son fishing. You know that the news has gotten really, really slow when we're talking about the grandchildren of the president. But anyway, the rest of this column is just Matt and other journalists and news media figures whining and moaning and complaining about how the news is too fast. We can't talk about all the awful things that Trump is doing. We don't have time to tell everyone just how awful the president is. And it's a complaint that Republicans or conservative commentators are familiar with. because the news cycle was just as fast in the Obama years. There wasn't enough time to talk about how bad some things that Obama was doing were bad, because the media would move very, very quickly from one terrible tragedy to something else. Unless it goes along with the left-wing narrative. It seems like stories like the Vegas shooting, or stories like, I'm trying to come up with examples on the spot. The Pulse nightclub shooting are talked about for as long as they are useful and then moved on from. Which I think is part of the complaint of Mr. Flegenheimer, that the news cycle is not long enough for them to expend all of the care that they have, all of the usefulness that some of the Trump stories have. You know, when something bad would happen on Obama's watch, or something Obama did was bad and the conservatives wanted to talk about it and beat it to death, the mainstream media would move on and they would find something else to talk about. Those stories weren't useful, so they weren't going to talk about them for very long. It's kind of like something that I do on this channel. If something is coming up a lot and is being talked about a lot, I might do more than one video on it, like the tax plan. There was a lot of talk about the tax plan on this channel, particularly because I was interested in it. I thought it was important to talk about. So yeah, we're going to talk about it more than once. But on issues that aren't as big or aren't as important or even aren't useful, I'm not going to talk about them as much, if at all. You know, it's something that a person with limited time does. They choose what stories to talk about that are important enough for them to talk about, which are useful enough for them to talk about, and they do that. You know, it's a time management thing. It's not inherently bad that the New York Times doesn't talk or thinks that some stories are more useful than others, because we all do this thing. What is ironic, I guess would be the most appropriate word for it, is how unhappy the left is, particularly this writer. I assume that there is more than one journalist that thinks this way about the news cycle in the Trump presidency, that it is a bad thing that the news cycle is so fast. It is a tragedy that there's not enough time to tell people how awful President Trump is. And they say all of this as if they have no agency in the matter, as if the only thing the media has to do is talk about the things that have happened in the past 24 hours, which they have never made a pretense of having that restriction on them. These complaining by Mr. Flegenheimer, and I have to keep looking at his name, otherwise I forget. The complaints made by Mr. Flegenheimer, is that it comes off as if he has no choice but to talk about the news stories. He doesn't have a choice in continuing to beat a horse that may or may not already be dead. Like, one of the things that he cites is Trump's feud with a Gold Star widow. You know, Matt doesn't have to stop talking about that if he doesn't want to. Just like I don't have to stop talking about the GOP tax plan if I don't want to. It might not be the smartest thing for a news reporter like Mr. Flegenheimer to do, to ignore the most pressing, the newest news events. But he doesn't have to talk about anything. He doesn't have to talk about, he can talk about Russia all that he wants. We've seen news organizations like CNN, New York Times, Washington Post, all of the mainstream guys cannot stop talking about Russia. It's been a year and a half, 2 years since the Russia stuff first came up, a full year at minimum, and we have zero evidence, but they're still talking about it. How quickly after Benghazi, the accusations came out that Clinton and Obama knew what was going on and did nothing to help. And yet the media, the mainstream media, did not see a problem with moving on from those stories. The media can talk about whatever they want. They have as much time as they want. See Russia. They don't have to move on from any story. They choose to do exactly that. And it seems like Matt is complaining over something that he has full agency over. And I just wanted to bring this up and talk to you about it. I really wanted to share the thumbnail for this video because the headline I thought just went so perfectly with it. Thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. If you did, please feel free to leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications so that you don't miss a single video, upcoming videos, because these are going to be important. These are going to be fun as well. I think you're going to enjoy them. On Monday, I'm doing a delineation on political dog whistling. I think it's going to explain a lot about dog whistling. I think it will be very beneficial for you, my viewers, and I hope that you'll come back and tune in on Monday. On Tuesday, I'm covering a column from CNN that talked about children's cartoons disseminating fascist propaganda. And I think shortly after that will come a delineation on the word fascist or fascism or, something to that effect. There's a lot to talk about when it comes to fascism that I think is very important. And I have another column. It's bookmarked in Chrome somewhere. There was an NBC column, and I haven't looked at it in the past hour, so I don't remember what it was, but that's going to be coming up as well. If you saw it, then you might know what I'm talking about. I thought that it was, what's the word that I'm looking for? So ludicrous that it had to be talked about. So make sure that you come back for those videos. I know that you're going to enjoy them, and I know that they're important to talk about. So until then, enjoy your weekend. Have a happy New Year's celebration. Good night. And God bless.